What's up guys, Kyle here again, and today we are going to check out the Clairvoyant Amp Suite from the Modern Metal Songwriter. Let's do it! Alright guys, hope you're doing great out there today. If this is your first time here at my channel, my name is Kyle, and what I do is I take all sorts of awesome high-gain equipment, I record it with a simple setup, and I give you guys the unprocessed audio on your end. So if you're into E-standard thrash riffs, drop C hardcore riffs, and dudes who are on a grandpa guitar buying spree, you're in the right place. Consider hitting the like button and subscribing on the way out so you don't miss any more of my stuff. Thanks! Alright guys, so today we are checking out a brand new plugin from the nice people over at the Modern Metal Songwriter. This is the Clairvoyant Amp Suite. So who are the Modern Metal Songwriter? Well, they are a couple of dudes, Isaiah and Johnny, who have essentially created a little community around helping the still new and learning modern metal producers out there. They started as kind of like a Facebook community that spawned into a website that spawned into a YouTube channel, and now they have created a plugin for you and me. That was super nice of them. So what is the Clairvoyant Amp Suite? Well, I'm gonna tell you. It is essentially a 3-channel amp suite that consists of a clean channel, which is based off of a clean combo amp, a crunch channel, which is basically your Marshall JCM 800 rock and roll type thing, and then a third heavy channel, which to me, to my ears, that's what you guys heard on the intro track, but sounds very much in the rectifier type vein, if I had to guess. So this, in my opinion, is just a very stripped down, easy to navigate plugin. So if you're kind of new to the plugin world, you're gonna have a much easier time getting around something like this than something like maybe say the neural stuff, which is very, very full featured, but it's also really easy to get lost in those types of plugins. This plugin is laid out in a very simple way. There's not a ton of options, which in my opinion, sometimes can create option paralysis when everything is kind of designed around simplicity and everything kind of synergistically working together. It's just easier to throw up the plugin and go. So now, what kind of sets this plugin apart from other amp sims? Because Lord knows that did I just say Lord knows?
Satan knows that
there are a million amp sims out there that all do the thing, that all sound good at this point. So what has Clairvoyant done differently? Well, there are 2 things that I would like to point out to you on this plugin that I think are a little bit different. So first up, we are on the amp portion of the sim here, and there is a tilt control. So what this tilt control does is basically it acts like a large EQ sweep that you pull it all the way to the left, and things get much more brighter, they get much more focused and just more aggressive. You pull it to the right and things get really, really thick and dark and smooth. And in the kind of write-up that they sent over to me for this plugin, it's essentially there to complement whatever guitar that you have. If you have a really thin, bright guitar and you're trying to get a little bit more meat out of it, you can turn that tilt to the right and it'll just generally thicken things up. and vice versa. If you've got a really dark sounding guitar and you want to get a little bit more aggression out of it, you can turn that tilt over to the left and it will significantly brighten things up. It will add some focus to the tone, and overall it just, you know, is a really helpful tool for dialing things in, because otherwise you just have gain, low, mid, and high. Like I said, this thing is stripped down. It's simple. It's meant to basically not give you a ton of different tonal options, but to give you one option that you're going to be able to shape to whatever project that you're working on or whatever guitar that you are using. The second thing that sets it apart is there is an enhance button on the front of the amp sim. The enhance button essentially cleans up some of the low mid muddiness that you're gonna find, especially once you start tuning down and adding a lot of gain to your plugin. Those low mid frequencies get really cloudy. A lot of people describe them as the woody frequencies, and generally myself, I find myself scooping out some frequencies between 300 and 500 hertz in order to kind of tighten everything up and take out the muddiness of the guitar. And this enhance switch is going to do something pretty similar to that. I'm not exactly sure what frequencies they're touching, but I know that based on what they have said in the write-up here for me, it does that. It takes out some of the gross frequencies that you want and kind of turns it into more of a mix-ready sound, especially if you're starting to tune down to clean up some of those frequencies. So with that being said, I am working off of a pre-release version of this software, so some things might change by the time this comes out, and I believe it's supposed to come out somewhere around February 16th. I'm shooting this about a week beforehand. The introductory price is going to be $89, but they're gonna have a special for the first 20 days, I believe, where you can purchase this plugin for 69 bucks. There's no better number out there. So I just figured I would let you know that up front, let you know that I'm working with the beta version, so some things might change from the actual real world release, so just keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and jump into the plugin. I have this pulled up as if we were just opening it for the very first time. I have not changed anything within the plugin. So down here on the bottom, you're gonna notice that you have a pedal section, you have an amplifier section, and you have your impulse response section. Like I said, that's it. There's no crazy EQs or After Effects to work with. There's nothing, you know, nothing insane on the front end either. You've got basically your general stuff that you would find on your average metal guitarist pedal board and, you know, your average plugin. These are all things that you should be familiar with. An OD, a fuzz, a lo-fi button, which is probably the most unique, I would say, out of everything listed here, and then you've got your delay and your reverb. Moving over to the amp section, we have the amplifier. We've got heavy, we've got mid, we've got low, and it changes the color to let you know what setting that you're on if you're just looking at a glance. And again, here are all of our controls here. We've got gain, low, mid, high. We've got our tilt control here. We've got our enhance button and a level. I think everything is pretty much self-explanatory if I haven't explained it to you already. Over here, we have the impulse response section. Now, this is not your super in-depth impulse response section where you get a bunch of different microphones and you get to pull them back and you get to move them side to side. These are simple 10 impulse responses that are included with the plugin, and I believe that all of these have been phase corrected. That way you don't have to adjust the phase in any way. They should work together. We have an A, B, or, you know, a left to right slider here. So if you want more of the left plugin or more of the left impulse response or more of the right impulse response, you can slide it whichever way your heart so desires. And then again, we have 10 different impulse responses that are built in specifically for this amplifier. And if you want to load your own third-party impulse responses, you can do just that by clicking the little folder button and throwing in something like York Audio impulse responses, because York Audio is like the best out there in my opinion. Little plug for my homie. But for real, I love those impulse responses. But for today, we're going to stick with the built-in impulse responses. Down here, we've got a volume, we've got a delay, and that delay, again, is gonna help with your phase correction if you do run into using impulse responses on either side here. If one of them is not quite in phase with the other, you can adjust the delay a little bit to get the phase right. Or if things are completely out of phase, you can just flip the phase by clicking the phase button. If you don't want the left or the right impulse response column in the signal at all, you can hit the power button and just turn it off. Again, I think everything is pretty self-explanatory. Looking at the top here, we have, again, just your basic amp sim controls here. You've got your preset button, which we don't have any presets loaded up yet, but before this actual sim launches, I'm gonna make a couple of presets, a couple of Thrash Daemon certified presets that will actually be included, as far as I'm aware, in the release of the plugin. So if you guys end up purchasing this, you'll be able to see how poorly I dial in my own personal tones by checking out my presets. So yeah, clicking that button, chugging for 5 seconds, that has properly set our input level for this plugin. We go over here, we've got a gate, which I'm gonna turn down a little bit because it seems like it was a little high, cutting off some of my notes. We've got our input signal if you wanna boost it. You've got your output signal if you wanna boost it. You do have a tuner here, which mutes your guitar signal when it is on. We've got oversampling if we want it. Right now, we're just gonna leave it off. We also have an A and a B button here, so if you have two different settings that you're kind of shooting out to see which one that you like better, you can set them up on the A and the B, and you can switch back and forth between them, or you can also use it like a channel switch if you're going from clean to high gain. Just switch from A to B. And then our UI size, we can blow up the user interface if we want to. Everything looks just fine as it is here. Technically, I'm working off the 14-day free trial, which if you guys want to try this out for yourselves, there's a 14-day free trial, and I'll be sure to link that down below for you guys to check this out in the description of this video and in the comments. But I will tell you right up front that this is a sponsored video. The Modern Metal Songwriter have paid me to check out this plugin with you guys, and I wanted to be upfront with you guys and let you know that. But just keep in mind, all of my thoughts and opinions are my own. All right, so with all of that shenanigans out of the way, let's get into some of the tones. You guys heard the tone that I was getting there for the intro clip, but what happens when we go straight to the heavies? I am using my Agile AL3200 MCC. This has the stock pickups in it, which are actually a pretty low output Alnico PAF style pickup. And I think they're sounding really good through this particular plugin, but we'll check out a couple different guitars. But yeah, here's what we got, just loading everything up. So that is with everything at noon. Let's go into our pedals section. We have an overdrive, and they have kind of some settings already set up here for you. If we click that on. Turn that off. We have a fuzz. We'll check that out on the clean channel in just a minute. Here's the lo-fi. Just a nice little easy way to get you some cool little intro tones if you're trying to do like a lo-fi fade in or something like that, or maybe a little bridge. Kick that lo-fi in and then kick it off to have everything kind of come back in and punch even harder. I like that. Then we've got our delay here. Click that on. Pretty lush sound and delay there. That actually sounds pretty good. We've got all sorts of controls here. I'm a belligerent amateur, so I'm not really gonna mess with that stuff all that much, but the delay works. And over to the reverb. It may just be adding some brighter frequencies that is making it seem louder, but overall, yeah. Bring that level back a little bit. Let's add some size and width. All right, cool. So we'll click that off. Let's go over into the actual amp sim portion. Let's turn that gain up. Let's get a little bit more mid and a little bit more treble. Yeah, just the overall voicing, I definitely get a rectifier vibe. Let's go ahead, let's kick on that overdrive. We'll pull down the gain. We'll get that level boosted up pretty good here, and we'll leave the tone in the middle. Yeah, so even boosting it pretty hard with the overdrive, it still has a generally dry feel. It's still got a lot of low mid content going on. Let's get a little bit more low end though. Again, these are lower output pickups and everything, so it's not gonna sound super hot regardless, unless we really probably push that gain. But overall, the tone is there. It sounds like a very familiar, good sounding high gain amplifier. Now let's start messing with that tilt a little bit. I'm gonna pull it to the left just a tad. And as you can see, that already adds some upper mid aggression and some top end. Let's pull it all the way. Big difference. If we pull it all the way to the right, it's gonna sound much darker, much fatter. This particular guitar is, I would say, right in the middle. It's a little bit, maybe just a tad brighter than some of my other guitars, but I like a more bright and aggressive tone. You guys know that, so we're gonna pull that tilt over to about 4. And that sounds pretty good right there. And let's get a little bit more low end chunk going. Definitely heavy on the rectifier vibes in my opinion. Let's pull that low back a little bit. The low is definitely pushing up some of those low mids as well. We have the enhance on. Let's turn the enhance off. Let's turn it off. And let's turn it back on. Yeah, so it mostly seems to be affecting those low mid frequencies. It's kind of cleaning up some of the woofiness. Let's go over and check out the impulse responses. We are on IRs number 2 and number 5. I'm just gonna run through all of them real quick. We're gonna put it all the way to the left here. Here's IR 1. IR 2. That one's very direct and forward. Here's 3. That one's a lot rounder. 4 is very full sounding. 5 has kind of a low mid grunt to it. 6 is pretty similar, maybe a little bit more top end. 7 sounds very much like a vintage 30 with an SM57. It's pretty bright. IR8 is still focused, but a little fuller. IR9 is a little bit more so in that direction. 10 is nice and balanced. I don't know. That sounds pretty good. Let's put it in the middle. I was digging IR7 quite a bit. Let's bond it with 4, because 4 was pretty thick and chunky. All right, maybe not. Let's try 9. I like that. That sounds pretty good in my opinion. Real quick, let's check out the other channels. Let's try the mid channel. Not much gain on that at all. Let's boost that gain up high. All right, it's a little muffled sounding. Let's get some mids and highs on that. This sounds really muffled in a weird way to me. It does not sound like, you know, what I would have expected, I guess. It sounds a lot more modern with how the mids are voiced. If we turn that tilt back quite a bit. Yeah, it's a very modern mid-gain voicing. Personally, not my thing, not super into it, but if you're into more of a modern mid-gain voicing, it's gonna work out just fine for you. Here is the low gain. All right, so the OD's on. right, so there's that. Let's try that fuzz out real quick. All right, so that's a real fat sounding fuzz. Alright, so that's that like completely broken sounding style of fuzz. Not my thing personally. I'm more into the big muff type thing where you at least get, this just has that really cracked, busted, broken type sound. So if you're into that thing, there you go. I personally am not. Let's turn that off. Let's try to get some sort of like ambient tone going on. All right, so that's enough of that because we're belligerent, but as you can see, delays and reverbs both work. Let's get back over to the high gain tones here. All right, so with our newer, more aggressive impulse responses, it's a little bit aggressive up top. Let's turn that high back and let's turn that tilt a little bit more towards the center. All right, yeah, that's a nice balanced tone, but let's play around with that tilt a little bit since that's kind of what they're focused on as far as the tone shaping. Let me grab a thicker, fatter sounding guitar. So as you can see, a good bit darker on the top, a little fatter on the low end. Let's turn that tilt to the left. And that makes a big difference overall in the aggressiveness. It gives it a lot more top end and attack in general, so we can turn that low back probably a little bit, leave the mid where it's at, maybe a tad more high end. And as you can see, it has balanced the guitar out nicely, gives me that nice, bright, and aggressive type tone that I personally like. But let's go the other way with it. Let's go to a much brighter guitar, one that I often have a hard time making sound thick at all. So as you can see, this guitar, much brighter right off the bat. Let's turn that tilt back over to the other side a little bit. And now it sounds nice and thick. That's actually a really nice touch because I have had a really hard time getting this guitar to sound thick through like real amps and stuff. So that's going to show you how much difference that tilt actually makes. Yeah, it's just a nice, solid, familiar, high gain tone. I think it sounds awesome. Last but not least, let's check it out on a 7-string and see if we can get that to sound nice and aggressive. Yeah, that makes it super aggressive. It tightens that low up, that tilt switch or tilt function is definitely a nice touch. Alright guys, that's going to do it for me today on the Clairvoyant Amp Suite from the Modern Metal Songwriter. What did you guys think about this plugin? Let me know down below in the comments, and I'll meet you down there to talk about it as always. Again, just to remind you, there is a 14-day free trial. You guys can download that, no strings attached. Check it out for yourself, see if it works for your setup. And if you'd like to purchase it, that introductory price is going to be $69 until it goes up to $89 after around 3 weeks or so. Huge thanks to the Modern Metal Songwriter for sponsoring this video. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Kyle here again. We'll see you next time. You know what this wall is missing? another amp. There we go.